Plants vs Zombies, the battle for Neighborville is mad. It sort of came out of nowhere too. There really wasn't a build-up to it, but rather a trailer and then boom, an early access release. The game's full release is actually October the 18th, but up until that point the game is in early access right now, getting new content drops each week, ranging from new areas to explore and new game modes. So for your sanity, I decided to jump in, play the game and tell you what it's all about. And a big thanks to EA for sponsoring this video, and if you want to learn more about the game, there's a link down in the description below. Now then, Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare released back in 2013. It doesn't feel that long ago, but when it released, you may have been forgiven for just palming it off as a kids game. But the truth is that it was quite a good team-based shooter, and Neighborville I think is too. Just in case the name of the game hasn't hit the overall plot of the game right on the head, well, the zombies have invaded Neighborville and the plants aren't going down without a fight. The game is made by a studio called PopCap Studios based out of Seattle, who also made all of the previous Plants vs Zombies games. So one of the things that Garden Warfare 2 did was embrace physical areas to minimize menus, and Neighborville does more of the same. When you enter the game, you go into a social area of sorts, and from here you get to change your character, you can change your team, practice some shooting as well as travel to some of the other areas and of course join multiplayer games. All of this is done via physical stations in the world rather than through a menu. Perhaps though you would rather just spend your time going around on the Ferris wheel and just pretend that the Plants and Zombies war isn't happening. Well, that's cool too. Depending on what character you are at the time will also change the home area that you're in. Of course, the plant area is going to be different from the zombie base. Those guys are not friends. The devs said that they wanted to create a wacky social hub, and I think they've absolutely nailed that. In fact, I think the whole art direction of the game is brilliant and there's always something to draw you in. In terms of visuals, it looks great. The areas are well designed, they're colourful, detailed, and of course it looks good because the game is running on Frostbite. Now, one of the things that Frostbite does really well is lighting. And when the game has a unique and cartoony look to it, like Plants vs Zombies does, it works really well. Performance is also good on PC too, although I did notice the occasional stutter, which seems to be a Frostbite issue across multiple games. One of the other great things about the look of this game though is the character design. There are so many unique characters here, all with unique movements and visual style. So each team has 4 attacking, 3 defensive and then 2 support characters. Some of them are going to be familiar faces and others are going to be brand new. I'm not going to list them all here, but all you need to know is that there's a mushroom that does fung fu, and that's enough for me. As with any other class-based shooter like this, you have to work together to push through objectives. Support players can heal, and that's going to be really important, just like it would be for Mercy in Overwatch, for example. And then you have characters like Citrus for the plants who can put a shield down to help offensive attackers. And the 80s action hero for Zombies or Colonel Corn are going to be your attackers that can deal damage. So in terms of gameplay, what do you do? Well, Neighborville offers up a few different ways to play the game. There is PvP, but also plenty of PvE modes too. When you're in your plant home base, for example, you can travel to the town centre. And when you do that, some quests become available to you. Complete these quests to gain XP, coins and other rewards. As the game releases, more of these areas will unlock and different quests will become available. These areas are free roam too, so you can squad up with 3 different friends in the social region and then work towards taking back the town centre, Mount Steep and the Weirding Woods. There's also a wave defense mode where you have to defend your base against waves of enemies. It's pretty self-explanatory, but also a fun little mode to play with your mates. As you would expect, the waves get harder the further you get in, with tougher and more enemies. This mode can be done with either team defending, so you may play as plants one time and defend against zombies, or vice versa. And then we've got the PvP modes, with the most interesting being Payload. I mentioned Overwatch briefly earlier when talking about the different classes, but if you've ever played Overwatch, you'll be familiar with Payload, as it's essentially the same principle. One team needs to defend their payload to keep it moving and progressing through the level to different checkpoints. The other team needs to be eliminating those players to stop the payload from moving. There are then other objectives that teams need to complete to win, including finding batteries or carrying bombs to a radio tower. Smaller modes are in the game too, including the classic TDM with certain modes such as Battle Arena coming in the last week of early access. For me though, in my time with the game so far, Payload seems to work really well, and it offers up a lot of ways to play well as a team. The different classes all have their pros and cons, and what PopCap want to do with this game is try to balance it as best they can before it releases completely. I didn't play all that much of Garden Warfare, but from what I understand, there was a few balance issues with various characters, such as Rose, so it looks like PopCap are keen to ensure that it doesn't happen again. This game is going to have a battle pass too, much like a lot of other games these days do, except this one will be free. The reward festivals are available to everyone, and instead of having blind loot boxes, the game will give players the option to work through a map of unlockable nodes as you play. And then when the game launches on October the 18th, the first festival called Lawn of June will take place, and this will thematically change the social areas and will begin your path to unlocking new festival-specific customization. The game also has a large number of ways for you to customize your experience. There are emotes, gestures, and even victory slabs. When you kill an enemy, your victory slab is shown off for them to see in all of its glory. After launch, I expect some of these items will be available for purchase with real money, but there are also items that you can unlock purely with in-game progression. It seems as though the goal with Plants vs Zombies Neighborville is to create a whole experience that can be expanded upon. You've got the core social area that allows you to not only jump into PvP modes, but also explore nearby areas to do other quests and activities. And the PvE too offers some interesting fights and boss mechanics. As the game progresses, PopCap could easily expand on these, adding brand new locations, quests, characters, as well as bosses and plenty of new cosmetic items to boot. The first few PvZ games were a big success, and you can see why. With the less than serious tone and a game that's definitely aimed at a younger generation, it's a game that parents wouldn't have much of an issue with their kids playing, and it's available on PC, Xbox and PS4. The pricing structure for the game is kind of interesting. If you pick it up now before the full release, then you get it at a reduced price of £24.99, whereas that will jump up to around £34.99 when the full release date rolls around. If you do buy it early though, you'll get the same content as the standard edition plus exclusive Founders Edition rewards for the first 4 weeks when you log in each week, giving players an incentive to pop on regularly. I spent a few hours playing the game to make this video, get some first impressions, and I had fun with it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, it's a bit mad, and that's often a breath of fresh air from some of the more serious games that you can play nowadays. At its core, it's also a really good class-based shooter, so there's definitely fun to be had here, not only for kids but maybe grown-up kids too. And that's all for today folks, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.